Welcome to Beyond Belief Paranormal Stories, the podcast that deep dives into the world of the paranormal, the occult, and the unexplained, with your hosts, Kayla and Melissa.
Welcome back, everybody. We are Beyond Belief Paranormal Stories, and today we are going to be talking about The Conjuring.
The Perron family. So yeah, that was my first time watching the Conjuring movie. Definitely more scary than Amityville.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't seen it, it is on Patreon. So you can watch
her reaction.
My reactions. And some of yours. You kind of did a couple little things.
There was
just
one.
Just a little.
One spot that made me jump a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was pretty scary. There was lots of really creepy things. I will never play hide and clap. That's all I'm going to say about that. Never ever. I don't have any interest in that at all. One, I don't like being blindfolded and like not being able to see for extended periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
So like that already just sounds awful to me. And then add in the like creepy shit.
The haunting.
That would like if somebody touched me even in a non-haunted house while I was doing that, I probably would like pee my pants or something, like for real. Like it would be so scary. Like I'd probably like definitely scream, cry, rip my blindfold off, potentially pee my pants because it would be so frightening.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so The Conjuring is based on a true story about the Perron family from Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
So it's mother and father and 5 daughters, Carolyn, Roger, and then their 5 daughters are Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cynthia, and April. Mm-hmm. There's actually a lot of what do you call it? Interviews.
Yeah.
With
the families.
Well, mostly with the older daughter, Andrea. She actually talks a lot about their experiences and stuff.
Well, she's the one that's written like the bajillion books.
So she's got was it 3?
It's like the light or the
House of Darkness, House of Light, Volume 1, 2, and 3. Mm-hmm. A book called In a Flicker and A Wander to Behold. Guideposts for Intergalactic Engagement with Humanity.
Interesting. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Right.
So she's written quite a few books, which are interesting. I do want to take a look into her books just to kind of see what they're like. A lot of it apparently is to do with her upbringing about the Conjuring house and all that.
Well, I know they made her books, the House of Darkness, House of Light, into a movie that I tried to find, but couldn't. So, yeah, I'm hoping that maybe we'll be able to find it somehow, some way. I even checked our library to see if they would have it for some reason. But to see, just because I feel like even though it's not like word for word her story, it might be just faster to go through than reading like 3 novels, like all about that one thing and then whatever the other 2 are about. But yeah, so like one thing that I thought was like really interesting is I was doing some research about like how like about the house basically and the Perron family, and the one thing that I came across is, do you know why they moved to that house in the first place? Because like they don't touch on it in the movie really.
I think I remember you saying it, but it's not coming to mind.
So basically what happened was, prior to moving into the house, they were gifted a dog from somebody. And the dog, they came up with the dog's name basically as quoted by Andrea. The dog's name came out of the ether, is what she had said. No one knows where this name came from, No one knows why they decided to name it this, but they decided to name it oh my goodness.
Bathsheba.
Bathsheba. And this dog was like particularly fond of Andrea. She would always play with it. It would take it for walks and whatever. And then this one day they decided, as like all the girls would take the dog for a walk, and I guess while they were walking, there was a group of teenagers in a car that were driving kind of recklessly, really fast, with like streamers and like lights flickering and stuff. And so this dog, Bathsheba, which was a very well-behaved, trained dog, was walking with Andrea on a leash, and it bolted from her towards the vehicle. And so all the girls basically stood there in horror, expecting the dog to be hit by a car. But luckily it made it to the other side of the road, wasn't hit by a car. And then I guess the dog, once that car went by, the dog had heard Andrea calling it and ran across the road. And while it was running across the road, it got hit by a different car being driven by an elderly couple. And a little bit of a graphic thing. Apparently the dog's leash got caught in the wheel, and I'm not sure if the dog was like dragged or something, but apparently the dog was still alive, but not like really able to be saved. And so the kids were all like distraught because they basically just witnessed this, and a neighbor called the police, and the police came and basically like removed the children from the scene and then shot the dog. So they were all traumatized by basically seeing their dog like, or hearing their dog being shot and killed, and witnessing it being hit by this car and this like really traumatic thing. And so, you know, they were really like traumatized by that. And I guess the family had booked like a vacation like weeks prior, and they decided, you know what, it'd be really good to get out of the house, to go on this vacation, to, you know, experience some joy and just try and like, you know, get over this tragedy, because like that dog wasn't just a dog, it was like a part of their family. And so they went to like hotels and went swimming and all this other kind of stuff. And then apparently they also had 4 cats. And so these 4 cats, I don't know what kind of like who was watching them or what the story or how long they were gone for. But when they returned back to their house that they were living in prior to moving into the Conjuring house, they came back and found that all 4 cats had been beaten with a baseball bat by one of the neighborhood kids.
That's awful.
2 of them died. One of them disappeared, and like they never saw it again. They don't know where that animal ended up. It probably died in the woods somewhere or something. And then one of them somehow survived despite a lot of broken bones and stuff. And so Roger called the police upon finding out that his animals were basically tortured and beaten, and then only to find out that the house had actually been broken into and ransacked. Like, furniture tipped over, the fridge was tipped over, all the food was out of the fridge, windows were broken, glass was smashed, all sorts of stuff. And the police ended up doing an investigation and finding out that it was like one of the neighborhood boys that was like leading the, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like the group of kids doing this. But when they went to confront the kid's mother, she basically covered for him and was like, oh, you know, that didn't happen or whatever. And so they didn't have enough evidence to actually do anything about it. But apparently Andrea was hell-bent on getting revenge.
Right.
And so she basically planned and executed this plan to beat the shit out of this kid, until a neighbor pried her off of him. And she like apparently like she like broke his nose, gave him black eyes and stuff. And so like the neighbor pried her off of him and basically was like, go home. Didn't call the cops, because I guess, I don't know if they just thought that the kid deserved it, or if they knew his kind of like, I don't know what you want to call it, like behavior prior to. Not that like I condone beating up people in general, but they just basically told her to go home. And then Roger traveled a lot for work, and so he apparently had to go on a business trip like he always does. And the one morning that he was leaving, one of their neighbors had a heart attack, and while he was backing out of his driveway, causing him to like smash into the parents' like front rock garden, I guess. Like, apparently Carolyn had this like really fancy rock garden that she really, I don't know, took pride in, and a lot of her friends made fun of her because they said that apparently like the main stone in it looked like a tombstone without any like engravings. And so apparently he smashed into that one and died. And so the wife of the like deceased person that died basically blamed her, saying like Carolyn didn't like them anyways, and that she was a witch and she was like doing this on purpose and all this stuff. And so I guess she like had a breakdown and basically begged like Roger to like move, and he was like, we can't afford it, like I can't afford to move anywhere, and he went on his business trip. And then apparently one day she was going to Andrea's music lesson, forgot to bring a book to occupy herself, and went and bought a newspaper instead. And when she was flipping through the newspaper, she saw the like advertisement for this like for sale of the home. And she apparently called up like the owner and like went and saw it and did like a agreement of like she paid the owner $500 to like basically hold the home for her so that she could get Roger on board when he returned from his like business trip. So he gets home from this business trip, not like, you know, unbeknownst to him, they've bought a house essentially, basically, and stuff. So it's kind of like funny that like she, you know, wanted the girls to be like raised by nature and like and like kind of live in the country, not like, I guess, be afraid of like the neighborhood kids in the neighborhood. And, you know, I guess even there she felt like she was being like ridiculed and whatever, because of, I don't know, somebody dying that had nothing to do with her and stuff. But yeah, so I guess he kind of just agreed to try and make it work, and they ended up moving in the December of 1971 in the middle of a snowstorm. But yeah, I did not know that was how they found the house. Was like kind of by like a freak, but not. Because like you name your dog Bathsheba for no reason, somebody dies, they call you a witch, and then you magically find this house in this paper because you accidentally forget your book. Like, just seemed like a lot of very specific things that if one of them didn't happen, chances are they wouldn't have moved into that house to begin with.
Yeah. And actually, it's really funny that you say that they named their dog Bathsheba, because the saying about the whatever's behind the haunting was a witch that died, and her name was Bathsheba. And actually, they were saying that there is a tombstone on that land with her name on it. And I just thought it was really funny when you mentioned the dog. Like, how, like, it's not even a popular name. Bathsheba? Like,
what is that even?
To call your dog that? And
that's
then,
a really long name to call an animal constantly. Like,
yeah.
Even, like, a simple name, like, you know, like, I don't even, like, Simba. Like, that still takes effort to go Simba, Simba, Simba. But, like, you know, Bathsheba, I would never, ever call her Bathsheba.
Right.
Like, it would either be Sheba or Bath, or, I don't know, probably Sheba, just because that sounds better than here, Bath.
Right?
You know, but, yeah, like, I don't know, that's, like, a very peculiar name to call anything, really. Like,
yeah, and they were saying that she was, even, like, when she was alive, she was also, like, evil then. She worshipped in, like, the devil and all that stuff. And she actually, it's not, like, confirmed yet, but this is what, like, people are talking about, is that she sacrificed a newborn baby by like using a needle and piercing it through its skull as an offering to the devil.
Mm-hmm.
So I could imagine like you doing something that in real life, it's definitely going to take on the evil in your afterlife. And like, if that's what they went through, like I couldn't imagine like that'd be a lot.
So
really.
I actually saw this video. I can't remember what the video was called or whatever, but it was talking about kind of the history behind the land and stuff. And it said that
kiss him.
that the house basically was owned by the Arnold. It's called like the old Arnold estate, I guess, or whatever. And that 8 generations of Arnolds lived there, and that there was a lot of tragedies involving like them, and like several deaths, including like murders, drowning, like 4 men freezing to death. A girl, like a little girl, was murdered by like a stagehand. And then apparently, like you were mentioning, Bathsheba, there was like a record of a Bathsheba Sherman who was born in 1812, and she got married to Mr. Sherman, I can't remember his name, in 1944. And then there's records of her having a son named Herbert. And that apparently she actually ended up looking after neighbors' kids because she lost 3 children of her own before the age of 7. So she, as a way of trying to, I guess, have that like child something or other, I don't know.
Hey, be nice.
That she would look after like the neighbors, and then it was actually a neighbor's infant that was the one that died with the puncture wound that they keep saying is like a sewing needle size.
Yeah.
And stuff. She wasn't punished for the death of the child, but apparently after it she became very reclusive and like weird behaviors, and then there's rumors that she attempted to murder 3 other children while confessing her love to Satan. And then the rumor has it that she eventually climbed the tallest tree in the place, like it's shown in kind of in the movie, and hung herself.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently the tombstone actually says that she died in 1885, which would have made her a really old lady. So it's kind of like how much of that is actually real versus how much of it is like, what's the word I'm looking for, like almost like wives' tales, or like embellished to make things sound so much worse. Because but either way, a child did die in her care from a needle wound, which either playing devil's advocate here, either whatever else was in that, like maybe there was something already there that was tormenting her and stabbed the baby with a needle, because Carolyn also was stabbed with a needle. Like Carolyn Perrin was sitting on the couch one day reading a book, and she felt like a really sharp pain in her calf muscle, and she looked down and there was like blood pooling out of her calf.
And she said she thought it was bees.
Yeah, they thought it was like a bee sting or something like that at first, but then she saw it was bleeding, and so she was like, oh, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then after doing the research, she then admitted to saying that she thought it was Bathsheba as well. But like, only because of that story. But what if Bathsheba didn't do that and something else did that and she just got blamed for it?
True.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no concrete, like no one saw her actually do any of the things that they're accusing her of. They just thought she was weird. And then a child died and her 3 kids died. So therefore she must have, done that. But if not, either way, there is something definitely evil in the house.
Yeah.
Like, and stuff. So
like the Perrin family are from the Roman Catholic, like they're Roman Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do believe in that kind of stuff. And Andrea, the older daughter, said once that the only time we heard the words the Holy Ghost was in church. And so when all of these things started happening, like to them, it was like
a saying,
like so surreal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like you can't cover that up. That's, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to explain it.
Yeah.
Like, to hear a word, but then actually, like, witness and experience it. And, like, during one of them, there was a seance that was done. And she said it wasn't until that seance is when her mother started to be possessed.
Yeah.
And
the Warrens were there during that.
So the Warrens actually went and visited them 6 times within that year, like when it first started, enough just to see how that they were doing and everything. I don't know if they did like an investigation each time they went, but I know that they went to just see how they were doing. During one of the seances too, she said that she could hear her mother speak in a different language.
Yeah.
And actually watched her mother's chair levitate and throw her across the room.
Yeah.
That would be traumatizing as like, I think she was like 11 or 12.
Yeah, she was 10, I think, when everything started happening. So I don't know how far after that was.
But to see that at that age, it's gotta be terrifying. So,
yeah, I know. I'd also read that they also heard her speak from a different voice that like wasn't her own, and her body was like all like distorted and in like an unnatural like body position, like something where like your body shouldn't move like that. And apparently during that seance, once Carolyn all of a sudden apparently just became limp, and like they figured that she was demonized or whatever is what he called it, he actually kicked the Warrens out and forbid them from ever returning and ever investigating anything about it, because he said that the Warrens' presence made the situation so much worse. Like, their presence made whatever was in that house mad.
Well, that makes sense though. Because like Ed is a demonologist and she's clairvoyant, so they can see whatever evil presence it is, and of course they're not going to want to leave.
They're probably doing like, you know, holy water and
the whole
whatever
shebang.
You know. So yeah, it's pissing them off and stuff. Like,
anything evil is not going to want to be they're not going to want to be getting. They don't want to be
gotten rid of.
That's the word. Gotten rid of. Yeah. Wow. So yeah, they're gonna fight back as much as they can. So that makes sense that they would be more activity with them being in the house than not. Yeah,
I just, like one of the things that they were saying, so like, according to some of the information from like Andrea, I don't know if this came from her book, but it was like from something I was reading, and that's where I got the information from. For the first 3 months, everything seemed normal. Everything was like okay, nothing out of the ordinary. And then they met one of their nearest neighbors, and they thought the neighbor was like a little bit peculiar because of what they said to them. And they said, we're going to offer you one piece of advice. And that was, in quotations, for the love of your family, keep the lights on at night.
I remember.
And they were like, what? Like, what kind of who says something like that? Like, that's so weird. And so they just brushed it off as like, oh, these people are weird. And then apparently during the spring, when everything was like starting to like thaw, Andrea and Nancy slept in the same room, and they were woken up to their door opening and closing constantly. And it freaked them out because they were like, what the heck? Like, everybody's supposed to be sleeping. And also that was their only way out of the room. Like, other than the window, I guess. Technically, there probably would have been a window, but no one thinks of a window as your only way out unless that one is for sure blocked, right? So they decided that they were going to leave, and when they decided to run for the door just stopped moving, but you could still hear it like apparently creaking as if it was still like in motion and stuff. And then they thought that it was their other sisters, and so they went into their other sisters' room to yell at them, and they were fast asleep. And so they're like, okay, that's weird. So then they told their parents about it, and their parents were like, oh, you guys have a really big imagination. Like, you know, there's no such thing. Like, that's just, maybe it's an old house or there's a draft or something, and just basically like brushed it off. Like, there was nothing, you know, there was nothing going on and stuff. It's just like, and like at first apparently like the spirits, whatever was happening in the house seemed kind of like benevolent and like very friendly and like harmless and stuff, where like you would hear like things moving, or you would see like apparently Carolyn would hear like the teapot moving or like a broom moving and that kind of thing, but like nothing really like bad happened for like a really long time. Like apparently the girls would like leave their room in one state and they would get home and the whole room was like rearranged and like just totally messed up
Right.
all the time. But again, nothing, like it wasn't like no one was being hurt, no one was being like, you know, harmed in any way. It was just kind of bizarre.
Right.
It wasn't until apparently a game of hide and clap, which is that infamous, it's just the idea of it's just terrifying to me. Cindy apparently decided that she was going to go to the woodshed, and I don't know what type of a box, but apparently there was a box with a lid that you like slide over it. So it must have been like kind of like a chest versus a box, because like when I hear box, I hear like, I think like cardboard box, not like a box with like a lid. But she decided, she saw the box and thought that would be the perfect size for her to fit into and no one would think that she was in there. So she got into it, she closed the lid, and she was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And she's like, okay, I don't think Andrea's gonna find me, so I'm gonna get out and go hide somewhere else because I don't think she's gonna come here. And she couldn't move the lid. Like she couldn't get out, she couldn't move the lid, so she of course became hysterical and was screaming and crying and like beside herself. And like a little while later, I guess, I don't know how long later, Andrea finally did find her and like just lifted off the top of the box, like no big deal.
Right.
And she was like, she found her like younger sister absolutely distraught about how she could not get out of the box and she thought she was going to suffocate in there. And Andrea was like, the box was light, like it wasn't hard to open at all.
Yeah, I would have been hysterical too. Like I'm claustrophobic,
Yeah,
so I'm like,
I
I probably wouldn't have like
in there.
Yeah, I feel like I would have died in there if that was me.
Just like from like sheer panic or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's crazy. I know that they were saying in one of the interviews too that April, who is the youngest, actually experienced most of the hauntings. I guess because she was the younger one and she was more susceptible. That's the word. Yes. To the hauntings. And actually, she, out of the entire Perron family, is the only one who's passed away. Yeah, she passed away in 2017
from not a drug overdose, a fentanyl overdose related to like a surgery she had.
Yeah, so it was a freak accident.
Yeah.
But before April passed away, she did get to read Andrea's books. Oh. And so she got to actually see their story. Yeah. Out there. So that's good. And I'm glad she was able to do that, but still sad that she's, gone.
Yeah. I mean, they're getting up there, so.
Yeah. But her being the youngest out of all five,
That must have been hard for like the entire family too, like, and stuff.
Andrea said she got a phone call from her dad and he couldn't even say anything, so he had to pass the phone to their mom. And the mom delivered the news to her because she wasn't even in the same town or state or something. And she just remembers the voice her mom telling her, and she was like just devastated to hear that.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah, that'd be really hard, but
you go in for a surgery and you come out. Like, I don't even know if it was like a day or two after.
I'm not sure.
She died in hospital, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that much. I just knew that she had died like from an overdose of fentanyl. Yeah. From surgery.
I don't think she made it home from that.
Yeah, because like I know sometimes like they do give like fentanyl patches, or at least back then maybe a little bit more. I don't know if they give fentanyl medication as much outside of the hospital, but fentanyl patches is something that they do give. So, and it's really hard to overdose on fentanyl patches unless the dose itself is totally wrong, because the patch just literally, your body absorbs it at the rate that it's supposed to. So it would have had to have been likely in the hospital, or the doctor like over calculated how much she was capable of tolerating. I'm not sure, but still really kind of unfortunate that that's how she went, especially a lot younger than, like, I don't know how old she would have been. Like, I think she was in her 50s.
I think just under.
I'm not sure, but either way, it's still really young for nowadays.
I think Andrea now is 57 this year.
Okay, so she would have been a lot younger.
She would have been a lot younger than that if she was 2017. I can't math right now, but that's whatever fine. That is.
Yeah.
Also, side note, before I completely forget, there is a 2-part series called Bathsheba's Search for Evil on T&E. We have not seen it.
No. We'll try to find it.
Going to hopefully find it, because we would like to also...
There's also another one that I saw that I would like us to watch. It's on Discovery, and it's The Haunting. It's some show. I can't remember, but it's about the house.
Okay.
And stuff. And I was like, ooh, that looks like it'd be good. And so I put it on our save. Like, I saved it on our save list of to watch soon.
So if you want to see reactions to that, comment below and let us know. And then if you do, we will do a reaction to it.
Yep. So another weird thing, speaking of Bathsheba, is apparently Carolyn was woken up in the middle of the night one time to seeing a figure of an old lady at the foot of her bed, and apparently they said that her hair was like cobwebs, but that her neck was like sideways, like hanging off, like almost like nearly headless Nick style. And she just had this like really weird voice screaming, "Get out, get out, get out," over and over again, and then just poof, disappeared.
So the girls call that the crooked neck lady. There are drawings in the parent house of the crooked neck lady. And that is exactly to the T of what you just said. So that's creepy.
Yeah.
So the fact that the mother had witnessed it and saw it, and then the girls are saying they saw the same...
Yeah, crooked neck. And yeah, like
the lady.
Which, if the rumors are true about Bathsheba and she did kill herself by hanging, or somebody died on... Actually, speaking of which, so let me just go to my research, because I know of somebody who died in the house. So apparently Catherine Arnold hung herself out of the blue in the barn. And was found frozen. Like, when she was found, she was also frozen. But, like, apparently they were saying that, like, whatever is in this house attacks the matriarch of the family, causing them to do things that they wouldn't normally do. And so, like, no one knew that Catherine was even suicidal or anything like that. And she just got up one day, walked out into the barn or whatever, and hung herself.
That's one of the things that Andrea said in one of her interviews, that whatever evil presence was in the house loathed her mother, but was like infatuated with the father. Like, she would touch the father up and down the back, like in a loving way. And like, he mentioned that it was really, really creepy. Like, he would feel that, and then he'd turn around and no one would be there. So that makes total sense. Yeah. If she was going after like the women, that 100% would be probably the influence of whatever evil spirit is there.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if that's Bathsheba or if it was some other being that's even darker.
Because like, if Bathsheba was into whatever dark arts she was into.
Yeah.
What, like you said, what if she herself opened something and it attached themselves to her, and that's why she hung herself,
or even before her,
or before
like
that
you don't
too,
even
yeah.
like we don't even know much, like I don't think about like who owned the land, I guess, before that even.
Yeah.
Like, well, so Mr. Sherman bought the farm from his parents, apparently, and then they lived there. But like, I don't know. I don't think their parents were living. Like his parents were living there, so why weren't they living there? Was there something wrong with the house already?
Yeah.
But like, who knows, right? Like, it's so hard to know what exactly is that like evil thing that seems to be almost like a succubus.
Yeah, kind of.
Like that's what it seems like to be, is almost like a succubus. Like it really is very like, you know, lovey-dovey, sexual in nature towards the men, but like absolutely hates the women in the family and like makes them go crazy basically and stuff. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe maybe it was a succubus in the house all along. But yeah, so apparently they did sell the house, the parents, in 1980. They sold the house and they moved to Georgia.
They lived in the house for what, like 10 years?
Yeah.
I
don't think
couldn't live through 10 years of torment and torture.
I would just lose all the money that was in the house and declare bankruptcy and be like, sayonara.
Right.
Like,
you mentioned something about one of the daughters.
Yeah, so I heard somewhere that I think it was Nancy talked to the neighbor, because I think the neighbor bought it from them originally, and begged the neighbor to stay for an extra year. Why, I don't know. But apparently that's what happened.
Unless like something was like keeping her there, like she was drawn to something.
Maybe, I don't know, but I know like, so the new owners of the like farmhouse or whatever you want to call it are Corey and Jennifer, and they're actual paranormal investigators. And they've gone on record saying that they originally, when they first bought the house, they only slept in the small wing of the house. They didn't open the big side of the house at all. They slept there for 4 months and nothing really seemed to happen. So they're like, okay, maybe it's just all like hokey pokey, like, you know. And so they opened the big side of the house and they decided to sleep there. And night one, they were both woken up to doors opening and closing, and they were woken up by like a black shadowy figure standing at the end of the bed, which is pretty freaky. Like, I mean, they're, I guess, open or game to the idea of like ghosts and shit living in their house because they bought the house knowing that. But like, still, like,
I get it though.
Like being open to the idea of it,
yeah,
and it actually happening are two very different things.
Which is also, with them being paranormal investigators, there's 2 other paranormal investigators that went and did investigation with them, and they actually brought in the parent family to see if like they could get any other like interactions with them being back in the house. Being that said, April had already passed, so April wasn't there, and the mother
refuses to go anywhere near the house.
She wouldn't go anywhere near it, and so it was the 4 sisters and their dad. And it's really interesting that you really got to see like how they reacted and like how their feelings were being back into that house, especially going through everything they went through. And
they had a medium that was a friend of Lorraine's.
Yeah, Chip Coffey.
Chip Coffey. Chip was there prior to the parents arriving, And then after they asked whether or not there was any like energy changes, and they said the minute that they went on,
the minute they pulled up in like the driveway,
instant like vibe changes and everything.
Yeah.
We didn't finish that whole episode or whatever, or finish.
Well, I've seen the whole thing.
Yeah.
You watched about half of it, but we will
finish it
so that you can see the rest of it. But I think it's really interesting to see
what is it about their family that causes so much more.
Right. But I think also, like they said, like energy, like their energy has been put into, they lived there 10 years. Mm-hmm. So everything that they went through and everything that they were feeling is in that house. Right?
Yeah.
So could be that.
Maybe. Another thing that I read that I thought was really peculiar, because like you don't often hear about this, is apparently Cindy would hear this like voice over and over again saying something about 7 dead soldiers are in the walls constantly.
Yes, I did hear this.
They're not like, no one else heard it. It was just Cindy over and over again. I don't know like the meaning behind any of that. I don't know if anybody else has found that out and research.
I couldn't find anything else on it.
Yeah,
but
if you do, comment down below and let us know, because I'd be interested to know what that even means. Mm-hmm. But then apparently there were even, like, things got so wild while they were there that there were even daytime apparitions of ghosts walking through the halls during the day.
So it makes it sound like there's probably a portal.
And that there was a constant smell of like rotting flesh, which the Warrens have said can be a demonic presence, which does make you think, could it have been just like a portal that anything and everything could just come and go?
Yeah.
And maybe that's why so many of the ghosts that were there were actually just harmless. But then
whatever ones you had that were evil or ones that are gonna,
they're there and they take over after a while. Like,
yeah.
Because I think what they would do is like I don't know, like they would probably wait until and like feed off of the energy and the fear of the family, because when little things are happening here and there, you're still fearful because you're like, what is this? Like, what is happening? Am I going crazy? Like, whatever. It's still scary, especially for little kids. So whatever demonic or evil presence was there was feeding off of that like fear until it got to a point where maybe it was like dormant because it didn't have any like energy left.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And then it got enough from their fear that now it was able to have a little fun and play and stuff. And then especially when they did the seance, it seemed to just
ramped up even more.
Well, possessed her.
Yeah.
And stuff. That was one thing though that I, after reading what actually happened and watching the movie, that I was a little disappointed, because I don't think they showed the seance, did they?
No, I don't think so.
Like,
they never sat at the table all together and had a seance.
No, like they didn't do the seance. They just, I can't even remember how she gets possessed.
It just slowly over time starts taking over.
Oh yeah, right. Slowly over time, and then she goes to the hotel, and then they drive back to the hotel for her to kill her kids.
Yeah.
Which, like, did that happen? That was one thing I didn't find in any of like the notes or like any of the information that I read, was whether or not like she became possessed to the point of actually trying to like kill her kids, or if that was just the Hollywood version of it.
Yeah.
But regardless, still terrifying, because I was like, I think I said during the movie, was like, if that happened to my mother, I don't think I would ever be able to trust her again, because
it'd be a hard thing to
would be
for sure come back.
Terrifying. Like, how do you know that thing is actually gone from her?
And that
100%.
Yeah.
And that, you know, one day when you're sleeping, she's not just gonna come up with a pair of scissors to you.
Yeah, I know. Like, with this investigation alone, Ed and Lorraine had said that they were over their heads with this case. Like, it was a lot for them to deal with.
Yeah.
And obviously it didn't end. Like, it didn't go away.
No.
So the fact that the new owners that are living in there now are still having things happen sucks.
Especially when, like, you don't know what that thing is. If it's that same thing that attached itself to her, like to Carolyn, or if it's just a playful ghost, like, and stuff. But I know Lorraine said that, like, when she walked into the house, she had, like, immediately noticed, like, a very heavy and, like, malevolent, like, evil spirit.
Yeah. And with Ed being, even though he's a demonologist, he didn't have, like, the church's approval to do, like, exorcists and stuff like that. Yeah, because
he's the only one that's not, like, a demonologist that's not, like,
through the
also
church.
A clergy or, like, is it clergy? I don't know what like, yeah, that's not, like, in the church.
Yeah.
And stuff.
And I know that they had a really hard time trying to get
approval
or a priest to get out there to even do it, which is interesting. I did find out that when they were doing filming for all the Conjuring movies, Bishop Brian, which you see him in a lot of different, like, paranormal investigating shows, went and blessed the scenes, like the stage of each set that they did, because he said, even doing the movies, your energy can manifest these evil spirits. And so he went and blessed every set that they did.
It's funny you mentioned that, because the girl who plays Lorraine, Berga Farmiga? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I totally butchered that. But apparently there is a legit video of her talking about her basically getting a bruise from something touching her that wasn't there. And she just played it off as like, oh, it's no big deal. Meanwhile, Lorraine was in that video, like, in the interview, and her eyes are, like, bulging out of her freaking head.
You probably see what's going on.
And she's like, well, she, like she was talking, like, Virgo was talking about it, like it was no big deal. And, like, Lorraine's like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean it's no big deal? And, like, I watched that, and I was just like, dude, that thing followed you home. Like, no thank you. So, like, maybe that's part of the reason why that priest did that.
Could be. I know that they say a lot of, like, besides, like, demons, evil entities are actually made energy from people's fear.
So, like,
how?
I don't know.
Like, is there science behind that? Not science behind that? Like,
is there science behind any of the paranormal stuff? Like, there's some, I guess, but, like, most of it, that's why a lot of people are skeptics, because it's not scientifically, like, proven over and over again in their eyes, like, and stuff. But I mean,
so be careful out there.
Yeah,
just saying, because that can happen. So
it's crazy to think that, like, that's, like, something that is just there. Like, how do you know? Like, I've moved a lot in my life, and, like, the fact that I'm aware of anyways, like, never moved into a place that was, like, severely haunted is kind of, I guess, good, but also, like, what?
We lived in one that we know of, but it wasn't, like, evil or anything. I had my own experiences, my sister had experiences, and my brother's friend Kyle also had an experience in the same house. They one night my sister came there. She thought that she was doing laundry or something downstairs, and she thought that she saw Eric walk by the laundry room, and so she was like asking him all these questions and stuff, and she wasn't getting any reply, and so she was like, yo, dude, that's rude. As I'm like, I'm upstairs sitting with mom in the living room, and she comes up and she was like, Eric, I was just talking to Eric, and Eric completely freaking ignored me, and da-da-da, and she was so, like, upset, and mom was like, Eric's not even home, like, Eric's at work, and Trina's like, no, she's like, I literally just saw him downstairs, he walked right by me in the laundry room, and mom's like, no, Eric's not here, it's just Mel and I, like, it was just me and mom, and Trina, and so Trina was like, okay, like, kind of brushed it off, went to bed, whatever. A couple months later, Eric's friend Kyle moved in, and they shared the room so in the basement, it was like a main floor, a small room, and like the bathroom. So they shared this small room. They had bunk beds, and I don't know where Eric was at this time, but Kyle was home, and he was on the computer in their bedroom, and it was not facing the door. It was facing like the wall, and he was on the computer, and he said he saw this man standing over his shoulder, watching the computer.
Creepy.
And he's thinking, it's Eric. Like, it had, like, a, the type of hair Eric has, and, like a brown shirt, which, for those of you who know, like, Eric, he sometimes wears, like, those, like, darker...
He was a little bit of an emo kid when he was younger.
Yeah, so blacks, dark blues, browns kind of T-shirts. And so he went to go look over to talk to him, and there was no one standing there. And so we were driving to work one day, and he just, like, he casually mentioned that, like, the weirdest thing happened to him. And I was like, okay, like, what happened? And so he was talking about how he thought he saw Eric downstairs, but it was, like, this man, like, standing over him, and he went to go and, talk to him, and he wasn't there. And I was like, are you fucking shitting me? He's like, no, what? I said, Trina saw the same thing 2 months ago, down to the T. Scruff hair, like Eric's, tall, and like a brown shirt. And his jaw, like, dropped. He's like, are you kidding me? I was like, mm-mm.
You should have done research on that house.
We should have. I mean, we should have, but we were a lot younger then too, right? And so I was floored, because I was like, are you kidding? Because I knew Trina's, like, experience of, like, the same person, and then he just said that, and that's 2 months apart. Like, that's not, like, not a coincidence. Like, that's something. So from that's its own kind of, like, thing. But for me, I was in bed one night, and, I had, like, a small little heater, like the little heaters that have, like, the rubber bottom so that they don't move.
Vaguely.
They're like on the bottom, it's like a piece of rubber that, like, you can't move it, right? So I had just a small one like that, not very heavy or anything like that, and I had this, like, big dresser. So the cord was behind the dresser, plugged in so that it wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Lights are off, I'm, like, half asleep, and my bed gets hit real hard with something, and my entire bed shakes.
I would have been out the door so fast.
When you're in that state, like, you're just, like, I was, like, in fear. Like, I was, like, frozen with fear. And so I slowly, like, reach over to try to find my lamp, because I had a lamp on the side table, and as I clicked it on, my heater is on the floor at the end of my bed. So to me, it's like, how did it get unplugged? 2, how did the cord come out from behind the dresser? And 2, there was an amount of force for it to smack my bed as hard as it did and shake my bed.
Like, I mean, I've been in an earthquake or two, but, like, nothing went flying.
Right?
Like, so
to me today, I'm still like, 1, was it a warning? Like, was my heater about to explode?
Maybe.
And he was warning me about it?
Or, like, it was going to catch fire or something.
Right. Or he just didn't like me. But,
or he didn't like it was too hot for him.
Maybe. Like, nothing else happened. Like, no evil thing happened in that house. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, to me, I'm like, I'm taking it as it was a warning that it might have exploded.
Did you
caught
ever
fire.
use that heater again?
I did not.
Did it still work?
I don't remember.
Maybe you broke it so that it wouldn't. Maybe it was already broken, but like still working enough to catch fire.
Maybe.
Like it's hard to say. But
it is hard to say, and like that's where I'm just like I'm just gonna chop it up to saying it was if something bad was gonna happen with it, and he was saving people.
Yeah.
Which is in the same house. My 15-year-old son now was 2 at the time. And they, like those really big, like, big TVs, like the boob TVs that have, like, the really big backing. Well, he had one of those on a dresser because it had, like, a cutout for the TV. One night, the entire thing fell on top of him. Both the TV and the dresser. And so, of course, we're in this big panic. Mom and I ended up, like, rushing him to the hospital. And he came out with nothing. No scratches, no bruises, no, like, bumps or anything like that.
But like children have died from having an IKEA dresser fall on them.
And the way that he was kind of like under the TV, like the way his body was kind of like, it looked like something was like on top of it. So I'm like, whatever was in the house, did it save him? Because how heavy that TV was, that would have probably crushed him.
It should have.
It would have. It could have. And he came out with absolutely nothing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I have a 2.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, and I refuse to put any furniture in their room because I'm terrified of them trying to climb it or whatever and it falling on them. So, like, the fact that, like, that happened but, like, didn't do anything, especially with a TV, that, like, an ancient TV.
Like, could you imagine, like, how heavy those can be? Like,
I can't even lift them.
For a 2-year-old to be able to take this entire big TV and a dresser all down with it is odd.
Yeah, that's a little bizarre for sure. I'm not even sure.
The bizarre part is the fact that he came out with absolutely no scratches, bruises, or anything like that. So, I mean, we got really, really lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
But yeah, this house has been like, we had so many different things. Trina's had weird premonitions in this house about houses catching on fire. Literally seconds before a house is caught on fire.
Weird.
I think she had it twice. And 2 different houses around us caught fire.
Did she have time to warn them? No.
No, because like literally it was like a vision. And then a minute later, explosion. Like seconds before it happening.
Like actual legitimate explosion?
Yeah. House exploded, caught on fire.
Was that the house with the drug meth lab?
So one of them, so right across the street from us was a meth lab that theirs exploded. I'm not sure if that is one of them that she did have, but there were one for sure, like down the block, like down the street and down the block, there was like a house there. And that is the one that she saw in her premonition. Split seconds before it. We heard the bang, and we didn't know if that was her, like if something happened to her. So like we rushed and we went to her room. She was actually still sleeping, and like went in to go check and see if she was okay. And of course she was fine. And then later on we could see out from like the kitchen window, like there's a house like caught on fire, and she came out and she was looking out the window. She goes, this is the craziest thing I'm going to tell you. She goes, I literally had the same premonition like seconds before I woke up. That down here, like something over here was going to explode. Yeah. And it did.
It's crazy. Yikes.
So I do want to see if I can find more research about that house now.
Yeah. Like the one that you were living in? Wonder if if anyone died there or lived there for like a really long time.
Yeah, I'm also like wondering too, like who lived there now, like if they have any like experiences in that house like we did.
Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting if they did, and if they described the exact same thing that you guys saw.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Because I even like for the longest time, like my son wouldn't even sleep in his own room. He always had to be in my room, and we never knew why. But it kind of makes sense.
Well, yeah.
And the attic was like down the hall. Like, so there was like the hallway, the bathroom, my room, my sister's room, and then Blake's room, which is my son. And then Eric's and mom's and all that was downstairs. And there was the attic door, like right at the end of the hall. And it creeped me out so bad every time I walked down the hall. And I don't know why. I just had this like eerie feeling every time I walked down the hall. But
was it like just like the hatch thingy?
Yeah, like it's like, you know, like the door, like you can tell it's like the attic door. That.
Like it wasn't like open-ish. It was just the outline of the door.
Which, like, the townhouse I lived in before we moved to this house, I had the attic door in my bedroom, and it never creeped me out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't.
So I was gonna be like, I'm pretty sure that's probably in like our room. I don't know, but like that, yeah. Like normally they don't freak me out. Basements freak me out more than like attics normally, and stuff. Like I will be more eerie about going into like a creepy, dark, dank basement.
Yeah.
Than like anything else. Kind of like the basements that you had, but like yours wasn't as creepy as like some of them. So like yours didn't per se creep me out, but like some really give me the heebie-jeebies. Like
if you would have seen the basement that we had in that house, like when we first moved in, the little room in the basement was Blake's room, and I took the whole like basement area for my room, and I couldn't do it. I think a month into it, I'm like, I had to move upstairs. I had to switch rooms with Eric and stuff because I'm like, I just couldn't sleep down there. It was just too creepy for me. There was something about it. He has no issues with it.
He also sleeps through like a hurricane. So, like,
yeah, or he's just not as sensitive to like certain things like that.
He sleeps through, like, he'll sleep through like everything and anything, like, and stuff.
And he sounds like a mad trucker.
Yeah, he does because he snores, but yeah, he sleeps through himself snoring, like thunder, lightning, like everything. Like, so I'm not surprised that like he slipped through like weird, maybe potentially weird shit happening.
But even though like he didn't get any like weird feelings, like just being in the basement, Mom and Anthony took over the whole entire basement as their room too, because like we needed the 2 rooms upstairs, which I mean we didn't really because Blake never really slept in his room anyway, but they didn't feel anything down there.
Could be like maybe like but then again like Kyle isn't older. Is like a little bit younger than Eric, but like not by much. So I was gonna say it could be like an age thing because like they say like the younger you are, the more sensitive you are to that type of thing. Yeah. But also I don't think Eric really truly believes in that kind of thing to a certain extent.
I don't think he does now.
Well, I think
or did then when he did. I mean, I don't know. Trina and Kyle are 5 years apart, so even at the age gap that is.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I don't know. Like I think it takes a lot for him to like get really like spooked by anything, like, and stuff. He's just kind of,
or he's just not as sensitive, like, so I don't know, but I'd like to do more research on that house just to see what we can find on it, and hopefully if we find anything we'll let you guys know about it.
But is there anything else you want to add about the parent investigation? I don't think I have anything.
No.
All right.
But, yeah. Go and check out our reaction to The Conjuring on our Patreon.
And we also have a new video of the Phasmophobia Halloween event for 2023, where we finally get our Halloween trophy. So that's kind of interesting because it was so different than last year that we didn't even know what the frick we were doing. We had to do it a few times, but you'll see.
Also, it's our fault because we didn't read what they said in the beginning.
No, we didn't.
When we first started playing.
We just skipped right by it. We're like, shoop, bye.
We got it.
Yeah, we figured it out. We kind of, we did cheat a little bit.
I won't not cheat.
You cheated.
I did a little bit.
You looked up what you had to do and stuff because we were trying to do other things and it wasn't working, and And then we didn't.
I feel like had I not though, we still would not have known what the hell, like what to do. So
yeah, we were. It was probably for the best, but regardless, there was a little bit of cheatsering happening in it.
Whatever, we got it. But yeah, so if you want to check out the, I was gonna say interactions, not an interaction. If you want to watch
the Faz
video along with the Conjuring, they're both on Patreon, so go check them out.
They are. All right. Well, until next time, may the mysteries of the unexplained continue to intrigue and mystify you. Stay tuned for more tales from the shadows. Whatever that
Like and subscribe.